Hi. I love Catherine's question. She said, what is your genre? My genre is epic fantasy, or what I call nerd fantasy. I first got into it with this book, A Wrinkle in Time. It's not exactly epic fantasy, but it was something I read as a kid that was the first intelligent thing I ever read as a kid. And I thought all the books everyone gave me were terrible. And then I grew up and they didn't get much better. But Madeleine L'Engle's book has always been great. And when I came back from grad school, had a degree in medieval studies, came back and read this again, I realized that I understood new things about it. It taught me a lot when I was a kid, easy to understand as a child, but it also had new things for me as a grown-up who had been a little more educated. So it's one of the most impressive books I can think of. I was also obviously inspired by The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Please tell me if you have this amazing set. A lot of people I've met have seen this exact copy of the book and the set that goes along with it. When I was a kid, I drew on the little box, and then I threw it away because I thought I ruined it, and now I feel like an idiot for losing that thing. But everyone's read this and everyone's been inspired by it a little bit. The idea of going to a different world and having an adventure there. But something that C.S. Lewis does is that he talks about the way that maybe we should take something back with us from that other world. And moving into the modern realm, we have Brandon Sanderson, who also does this. Now, he has changed the way everyone in fantasy talks about magic. He's changed the way we do it, the way we approach it. We don't just use magic to throw fire at each other, we use it to solve problems. But Brandon Sanderson is also gifted at talking about humanity, the human condition, different things that matter that we should think about. It doesn't read like propaganda, but when you walk away from one of his books, you feel like you've really got some new ways to think about things. Also, this is one of his shortest books, so if you're not wanting to get into a 10-book saga, Elantris is a good standalone. It's an excellent story. My favorite novel is probably The Dark Tower by Stephen King. It's a different, very different setting, you can already tell. It's got an interesting writing style. It reads like a T.S. Eliot poem based on a Robert Browning poem, which is what it is. But it's not poetry, it's prose. And it has some of the most amazing artwork inside, made by Joseph Whalen, I think is his name. And it is incredible stuff. It'll blow your mind. If you haven't read it, please get it and try and look for one of the older copies of it, because those have some of the better dialogue, I think. Just my opinion. He changed it at some point to make some things make more sense throughout the series, but I still prefer the original. Getting a little bit more strange is Michael Moorcock's Elric the Melniboné. This is some stuff I really enjoy. The adventure is huge, but it's also incredibly intimate. Elric's story is very philosophical, very human, and fascinating, and it discusses things like nihilism, things like should we bother to live at all? What should we do with ourselves while we're here? And Elric might not really reach a conclusion that I agree with, but I find his story absolutely fascinating. And then another one of my favorites is The Forgotten Beasts of Eld by Patricia McKillop. Now, you didn't actually ask me to give you a bunch of books, but I wanted you to kind of get an idea of where my background is. So reading all this nerdy stuff whenever my teachers weren't looking. And everyone thought I'd grow out of it, but I didn't, and now I'm writing it for myself. So that's what I do, epic fantasy. Now I have a follow-up question. I'm past 3 minutes, so I gotta hurry, but I'm curious, Catherine, if you'll tell us, what editing do you want to do? Because editing is one of the strangest words that we deal with. Do you want to do line editing, copy editing, or project management kind of editing, or something else entirely, or all of it? So I'm just curious. Tell us what you want to do, and then we'll know a little better. Thanks for the good question.